Good evening, everybody, and I am excited to welcome you back to the Family Matters podcast, back to school edition. We have some new guests today. We have Brother Ruben Davis, who's always here, and Sister Chanda Cook joining us here to talk a little bit about how do we transition back to school? How do we help parents with that? And so, how are you guys doing today? How's it going?
School's back in. I'm tired.
Yeah, the same, but things are going well.
Yes, like long days, early mornings, right? Long
Right,
Yeah,
days,
all
super
that.
early mornings. Yes.
What about you? Well, hold on. What about you?
right.
Listen, that's definitely long days. Long days, early mornings. And so yeah, but it's an exciting time, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful time because our kids are growing. We're seeing, them that summer maturation, of them kind of just growing up. And so it's a fun time, to go back to school. So I'm excited about this year.
And I have a kindergartner,
Oh,
my first
Okay.
one going through kindergarten, so
oh my
I'm feeling
God.
all the emotions,
All the
but
feels.
Yeah.
all the feels, but I'm excited, like you said, for him. I'm excited that he's excited.
Mhm.
That he's really just he loves school. So I'm happy about that.
I love
Oh
that.
man, you just reminded me of something. I gotta be. I need to step it up because I have a kindergartner now too. Except he's the second one, so we're kind of like, all right. You know, he didn't get the same treatment.
Mm,
It wasn't.
You
terrible.
It
gotta make
wasn't a
him
big
feel
deal.
special too.
Did they have a sign
We do have a
that going to
sign. We did the
kindergarten?
sign.
Yeah, yeah,
We did the sign.
yeah.
Yeah, we wrote the first day of school stuff.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So my son is a sophomore, which is wild to say. He's a sophomore, and
Man.
it's it was crazy because he's super. He everyone knows him for some reason, like literally everyone knows him. And but seeing like his friends graduate last year and coming back and like him not being the freshman but kind of being more acclimated on campus, it was something to see. I mean, I didn't cry. They had a Cheers and Tears event. I did not cry at the Cheers and Tears. I did cry on my way to work. But it was more of like, thank you, God. He's growing, he's maturing, he's has wonderful friendships. He's a leader, a student ambassador, all those things. So it was great to see. I just need time to slow down. That's
Yeah.
it. Um, but as we're on this topic of like, our kids transitioning from summer, into the school year, one of the things I think that, maybe we should talk about is, how do we transition like our kids from all of the freedom, maybe the summer routines into intentional school routines as parents? Like how do we do that?
I just would say for my kids' age range, kind of just like establishing like maybe like a week before school actually starts, like getting them back into the routine as far as establishing their bedtime, making sure that they're going to bed at a good time, because they need to start getting into that routine for when school starts back. I say, just literally doing the routine as if they were having school the next day, baths, um, story time before bed and prayer and, well, of course, dinner before bath time and all that. But just what I'm trying to say is that establishing that routine, like giving them time to get back into the routine from being off in the summer.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Kind of like, you know, allowing them in a moment to kind of like, okay, if there are some rooms, some time that they need to kind of like work on that transition, they have time versus like the night before. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How hold on. How was your summer? Did y'all I mean, summer kind of went fast for us. It just felt like it was here and then gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we kind of we kind of tried to squeeze out as much of it as we could. So
Mhm.
towards the end, we always like going to the Indiana State Fair, and so we took them to the State Fair, and that was the final night of the State Fair was probably the same week they were starting school, and so they stayed up late, maybe only a couple days before school started, and so that wasn't the best plan. And so we knew going in, okay, they were probably going to have a little day, but thankfully their school starts off with a half day of school.
Mhm, mhm.
They do a half day, then they go home, and then they do one day of school on a Friday, and then so we lucked up. But yes, the years before when we actually had time where we got back into the routine and everything like that, it worked out way better. But I'm just being transparent; it didn't happen this time for us.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't. I know for when you have older kids, I mean, you don't even get a summer.
Mm.
You're starting sports in
Oh
in
yeah.
May. I mean, you're coming out of a sport going back into a sport, and I mean, you're there twice a day, all day long. It's hard for you to travel. And it's a lot on them going straight. Just go, 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 go. And sometimes you just don't get that transition period, right? One of the things that I found helpful um, for me was just and I have an older son, so it's a little different, but you know, um, as long as I'm incorporating something like academic, keeping his mind turning, like, so, making sure he's like, I told him to choose a novel, right? Pick a novel, choose that novel, read it. He read three of them. And you're already doing football. It's hard to transition and go to that bedtime a week before because practice is so late. You're not getting home till 10:30. Uh,
Mm.
and so it's just more of like you're saying, it doesn't always happen that way. And you kind of just have to roll with the punches. And sometimes the punches are rolling you. And you just have to like just do the best that you can. And I think that's kind of how like my summer went. It did go by super fast. I tried to get in some academics. We did a few math, refreshers, because we're going into some heavy courses. And then we did some reading. And for me, that was like my routine. I got the academic stuff in. Are you going to bed at the time that I would like? No, right? But at the same time, you got to pick your battles. You've been out all day. You're literally just getting home at 10:30. You're tired, take a shower. Sure, you can hang and talk with your friends for a while and we'll get at it another day. And so I think it's important for parents to know everybody's routine does look different. You
Mhm,
know, transitioning. If your kids aren't in bed by 7:30, it's okay.
mhm.
It's okay. We're
Thank
all
you.
trying to figure out,
That's helpful. That's helpful. Give ourselves a little bit of grace then, huh?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Your school started back quite early this year, right? Do you feel that you had enough time, your children had enough time to rest in between school years, or do you feel like they really didn't get a true opportunity to kind of just exhale?
You go ahead, Chandler. Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm actually kind of thinking about it as you were asking it. I think they got a little bit of time to exhale. Um, Probably not as much as I would like. It like Ruben said at the beginning, it feels like the summer flew by.
Mhm,
Um, but I think they got a little bit of time, but not as much as I would have liked.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And are we thinking that I know for me it does feel like it is healthy to have that time off. Like, kids need it. So just for time with family and vacation and some people get to go places, some people, it's a staycation, but I'm starting to also think of it like, man, those summers, they're going to be precious. I was talking to one of the parents as we were at day one back to school. I'm talking to one of the parents, and she was like, you know what? I'm counting the summers. Like, we only got 10 more summers, or we only have. I'm like, oh man, you're right. That means every one of these summers are really like, those are going to be kind of precious now.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of like when I was asking the question, I'm leading into like, so much of parenting, we're really stuck on like routines, right? And You got to
Mm,
get your grades and you have to do this and you have to do that. Um, but how important is it for us to really have that balance of like
yeah.
school and life and enjoying our kids? You said 10 summers. Like I have 2 summers, right? Left with my
Oh,
baby before he goes to college. And that's like
wow.
people are like, oh, he's a sophomore. Why are you crying? Because I have 2 summers left with my son,
Wow.
right? Before he goes to college. And it really is like I've learned as I've matured as a parent and as he's growing that there is a balance. And it's
Mm,
okay to spend the extra 2 hours watching a movie, right? It's okay to enjoy the conversations or, to spend those extra moments with them, because school is great, right? Everybody on here has been an educator, right? We've
Mhm.
all been educators at one point, administrators or whatever we have been in our fields.
I don't think anybody knew that, did they? The people out there didn't know.
Oh, oh,
Courtney's teaching right now.
yeah,
Chan has been
yeah,
teaching. I
you know,
used to teach, so
yeah,
yeah, we've
like
been on both sides of it.
that's right. And I mean, no matter what you do in education, like that like it's not just about academics, right? Like developing and making sure that our kids have that healthy transition back to school, I think also helps is important that we help them have a fruitful summer, restful summer, and enjoying those moments. And even, how do we have that balance? How do we have that school life
Yeah,
balance as we transition, but even into the school year? How do we have that balance with our kids, so that we're enjoying that time with them and we're not just solely focused on just your homework, right?
yeah, it's tough.
I
It's,
Yeah,
I think it also goes back to, like you said, Courtney, like the phase that your child is in, or the age of your child too, because you know, yes, you have to give yourself grace. If you're not getting them in bed by 8 o'clock, or 7:30 or whatever, you do have to give yourself grace. But at the same time, too, I know my kids are not going to have the best day if they're going to bed
right.
past a certain time. I know that the teacher's probably going to be like, "Oh, they didn't have such a great day," and I want to set them up for success. Now, an older kid may be able to do that. May be able to um go to bed later and they still be okay, the next day, because they're mature enough to handle that.
Mm-mm.
But going back to your work or your school life balance,
she
I
said,
said,
"Nah, not really. They can't handle it either."
Mm-mm. Because they're and when they're older, they have so much more to do,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
yeah.
They've got they've got classes, difficult classes, right? And then you've got sports. You've got to balance your friends, your sports, your grades, your homework, and then you're an extracurricular outside of your sports if you're in leadership roles or community service. It's a lot. So you're right. Like that we have to set our children up for success, right? That
Mhm.
intentional parenting piece of making sure that they're getting the rest, making sure that they're going to school rested and prepared,
Mhm.
right? So that they can be successful. But you're right. It has to be intentional. And I think that that's the question is like, how do we balance that intentionality, right?
Yeah. And so going back to your question about the balance, I think like you said, the extracurricular, like for example, um, little Kenny has practice, like soccer practice, tomorrow, and I know it's going to be a later evening for us. You know, so I'm already like kind of trying to plan out how our evening is going to look. Like just kind of
Mhm.
prepping myself ahead of time. Like, okay, it's going to look a little different tomorrow. But I try not to make every day like that. But then as far as the balance part, like giving them something to look forward to, like maybe on Friday, like that's the day you get to let your hair down. Like we can watch a movie, we can pop some popcorn, we can chill. Like Friday's your day to just enjoy.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And
yeah.
then Saturdays too, and then Sunday, hey, we're back on our routine because
mm,
Sunday's school night, absolutely. And I love that, giving them something to look forward to, setting, that little nugget there for them to be like, oh, okay, Friday's our family night, and they know that, hey, like if I have a good week, then we get to do this, and I think that's great, so yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, and so as we're talking about balance with our kids and just intentionality as parents, how do we, as our school year starting, how are we intentional with like our students, like I mean our students, our kids, teachers, right? How are we intentional about making sure that our kids are set up for the best position when they're in school, right? How do we intentionally make sure that they have a great year? Does that happen in the summer? Does that happen? When does that happen?
I think if anything, for me, it's it's a lot of what you guys said. Allowing them um, some rest, but sprinkling in those things that you just kind of need to kind of help anchor them. I think Courtney said something about like just making sure because she knows it's about to be a tough math year, making sure that there's some things there. She may not get a good bedtime, but at least she was able to get a little just a little brain work in there. And so for me, that was like the one goal was like, okay, sprinkle in some learning, making sure that, it's there somewhere, even if it's like, guys, we got to do a little bit of reading every day.
Mhm.
We got to do, at least some math, even if it's math and I'm just, having them do as we do normal life stuff, whether it's math in the grocery store or, whatever. But I mean, um, and and honestly, I had some other life goals that the boys, just I wanted to, have them achieve over the summer, because nowadays, believe it or not, I think kids, learn to tie shoes later because most shoes you don't even have to tie, and I wasn't even thinking about it, but Courtney, got this probably blow your mind, but here they are, 6 and 8 years old, and I'm like, okay, it's time to tie our shoes, guys. But but
Mhm.
half the time they don't have shoes they have to tie. They just
Mhm.
have slip-ons and those straps. And so I'm
Yes.
like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
we need to buy some shoes that have some laces in it. Like, so we just went for like those small achievements that like tying your shoes or getting all the way across the monkey bars, and along with just reading a little bit every day.
That
Yeah.
that made me think of something, Ruben. Like that something popped in my head when you were talking about that. Like if we're not careful, we'll miss the small moments. We'll
Mm,
miss those small moments. We'll miss those things like,
yeah,
wow, did I really take the time to really work with my kid on a life skill?
yeah,
Mhm.
Like tying their shoes.
Mhm.
Like you're reminding me like, oh, I better get on it with my son because he's gonna be there next year. Even now, working with them with tying his shoes. But if we're not careful, we'll miss those small things.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that kind of goes back to your question, Courtney, about the work life, or why do I keep saying work life? The school life balance,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
like just remembering those small things too.
Mhm.
And, and,
Yeah.
and I'll just say this, and then Courtney, I know you have something you want to say, but I want to put that out there because I think where our society is right now, there's a lot of little things that are changing. It's just real easy to just like not really pay attention to. Like I literally looked up and was like, wait a minute, they don't know how to tie their shoes. They're
Mhm.
gonna mess around and be 10 and 12 years old, not tie shoes because everything comes with a strap and everything's got, you slip your feet into. So it's just we had to intentionally think about that stuff now. So, but everybody give yourself a little grace. Hopefully I'm not the only one out there. They probably gonna beat
Oh,
me up on
oh,
this one, like for real,
no,
nah, your kids are the only one. No, but
no, no way.
Even reading a clock, I mean,
yeah.
you
Well, with
know,
the hands on it, you mean? Or oh
yes,
yeah.
yeah, but even too, I was gonna say, intentionality with the little things is important because, you know, when we're present parents, we're able to kind of, we need to begin with the end in mind. And so now that mine's a sophomore, I think back to when he was in kindergarten. And I remember researching and looking, okay, where do I want him to be by the time that he's in, you know, high school? Where do academically, socially, emotionally, what do I want for him? Right.
That's good.
And a lot of these places and spaces that we want our kids to be in, they start in kindergarten because you have to have the grades. You have to have the social skills. You have to be able to have the emotional skills to handle some of these programs. And as parents, we can't figure it out in the fourth grade, right? Because by the fourth grade, the parents that were intentional already have it figured out. They've already been doing it. There's a program. I remember CJ was in the first grade, and I looked at this program, and it started in the sixth grade. So I made an intentional plan in the first grade that every single semester we wrote a goal, and I worked with him on reading, math, speaking, being articulate, all these things, so that when he got to the sixth grade, all of his academics and his extracurriculars reflected what was needed for that school. And they
Mm.
only took 100 kids out of like, I think it was like 3,000 kids
Wow.
in that grade level. But these programs help shape our kids for what they need as they get older, you know. And people say, well, you probably knew because you're an educator. No, I knew because I was an intentional parent. I knew because I was looking ahead at the small things, right? The small things. Oh, he needs to be in Boy Scouts. Why? It helps you learn certain life skills,
Mm.
right? And it helps you just little simple things that will allow you to maybe think a little differently than
Mm.
just, oh, I'm opening my math book and I'm learning how to count, you
Mhm.
know, just simple things, that will help develop them into to get into certain spaces. Because I think sometimes parents, especially parents of color, we
Mhm.
don't necessarily look ahead as much as we should when it comes to our babies. And so when we're talking about intentional parenting, we're talking about back to school and paying attention to the little things. I just want to encourage parents to think when your child is that sophomore, where do you want them to be? What programs do you want them to be in? Do you want them to be in dual credit? Do you want them to be in certain courses? Well, that starts in kindergarten,
Mhm.
right? That starts with, you said that summer math. Well, we didn't get the bedtime, but you know what? We read a little bit every day, right? They started
Mhm.
their love for reading in their novels, and things like that, so that they're not playing catch up when they're in when they transition from that learning how to read to applying, right, and analyzing what they read. And I think that that's something with intentionality of balance with our academics and our kids and parenting, paying attention to the little things. But I just want to encourage us to, we need to make a plan of where do I want my kid to be. We can
Mhm.
have dry summers, we can do all those things, but where at the end of the day, at the end of that 18th year, do I want my child to sit? You
Yeah.
know,
Love that.
and I think that would be my nugget about, it's important to balance. It's important to know those little things. Those little things add up to big things. And those big
Yeah.
things,
Good.
you know, they open doors for our kids.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
I
You know,
good.
love that.
doors.
Starting with the end in mind.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Mhm.
know, which leads me to I was talking about our teachers. How involved are we with our kids' schools? Are we do they know you? Do they know you as a parent? Are you a room mom, a room dad? Are you involved in, are you emailing your teachers? Do you know where your kids' grades are?
Mm.
Right? Um,
Why they
are
need
you
to know us? They just need to do their job and teach. Like we were trying to drop our kids off. They should be able to handle
good
it.
luck?
Like we got things to do. No.
But listen, and this is, I've been an educator for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. Teachers don't get paid enough
Right.
to go above and beyond. So
Right.
if you don't go above and beyond, your child is going to be left behind. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't know what's going on in your child's classroom, Like my son's a sophomore. Every last one of his teachers got an email 2 weeks before they didn't open it until today. That's okay.
Mhm.
But they saw it today, you know. I went to meet them, had a conversation. I just sent them little tidbits about him and who he is and what he enjoys and you know my information. And guess what? They'll get another one on Friday. And that sounds a little extra. I don't like parents like me. I'll be honest. I am the worst. I do not like parents like me. But it's important that your child's teacher know that you're paying attention.
Present. Yep.
And honestly, to me, even that parent, as much as they're, going after it, coming up behind their child, or trying to show up at school, or sending an email, or communicating, at the least, it puts that bug in their ear, or when it comes to, even when I was teaching, when it come down to that type of parent, for sure
Hmm.
you need to pay attention to that child.
That child. Yeah.
Yep.
Because
Let-
the first thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna be like, oh,
right.
hold on, that parent.
Gotta hear from that parent.
let me wait. Okay, so he got a 79.6. Let me go ahead and round that up because I already know that email is coming, right? Or
Yeah.
they're paying attention.
Let me call them because
right.
their child just made a grade that's not gonna be passing. Let me go ahead and call them like, hey, listen, your child's dipping.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's not that teachers are they're not even trying to do that on purpose. They're not neglecting children no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when it comes down to it, what's that saying about um oh man, I don't even know the saying, so I'm gonna leave it alone. But you know, sometimes it's sometimes it's the loudest one. People whoever shows up for their kid
Hmm.
gets the attention first.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's just human nature. It's not even that again anybody is trying to leave any child behind. It's just that when people show up for their kid, it draws attention.
Mhm.
And so we should all be doing that. Like I try to be there. If I have because of the nature of my job, I get to go in later. I get to stay a little longer, in the morning. So I get to like hover around and, so the people at the front door know my name and the people, all through there know, and you can just have relationships
That's
and, all of that, so it's useful. It's good.
yeah.
And it's a good place to be when it comes time to go to bat for your child, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're not just coming in when there's a problem.
Right. Right.
Building, like you said, building that relationship. Because you could be that parent that, hey, you're gonna see me if I have a problem, but you should be the parent that's just involved,
You're
period.
just gonna see me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Building relationships, being an advocate, making sure that, um, that school knows that this child is supported and this child is, loved and this child is cared for and not just academically, but socially. I am a partner with you
Hmm.
so that we can partner together to make this year a success, right?
Hmm.
And it allows you to just mitigate some issues that wouldn't necessarily be solved, right? If you weren't there, and so it allows the school to think twice, right? And it also helps you have that communication, and those teachers will care and say, hey, they'll work a little harder because they know, like, your mom is really working and making sure that you have what you need. So I want to make sure that you do get what you need when you're in here with me. So I love
Well, so
that.
and what is a good since we all are on both sides of this, what would you say it would be a way that all parents let's help everybody break the code that all parents could um, get off on the right foot with their teachers, start to create relationships with their children's teachers. Like what works for each of us, that's something I'm just throwing out there. Like what would you say, Courtney, would when
Yeah.
it comes to those
So
things?
yeah, for high school, you have so many different teachers, right? So I
Yeah.
think my son has like eight different teachers, eight different teachers. And so what I try to do is one, I get involved, right? So I know he's not I call it babyland, like kindergarten, but I go up there and I physically meet them. Like I set an intentional meeting, right? And I with him, with my son, and we learn the expectations. I sit down with the head of school. So my son goes to a parochial school, a college prep school, but we
Mm.
sit down with the head of schools and we talk about the expectations and his schedule. And, if he's in a course that I feel like he should be in a higher course, then we do that. I want to know the expectations. I sit with the teachers. I also email and have conversation with the teachers because I want them to understand that, like, you know, he's going through some difficult course. So I think that relationship is important. But then I also too try to take opportunities to like thank them. So I know that I'm that parent that's going to email you every Friday, and I'm my son is still very young when it comes to high school, so organization and boys aren't the best. So we sit, we make plans, we do that, but I also know that I'm very involved with the parenting with of him when he's at school. That I mean, communication with the teachers. So I try to. I think I took all of his teachers a candle and a little gift card. I put some bath bombs. I just off of Amazon got those big bath bombs. Put one in there,
You're
and
good.
something like that, just to begin the year. Because I know what it's like to not be thought of.
Mm.
And I definitely do something for Christmas, and I thank them. And there might be a day that I will go and I will just buy donuts for the upper school
Mm-hmm.
staff you know, and I'll just drop off literally like 10 boxes of donuts and say, from CJ Moore Lyle, thank you so much for loving, caring, supporting my son. And I do stuff like that because I know that I am that involved parent. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm up there all the time. And they know that,
Yeah.
so I
We
just
don't
think
like donuts either, so
yeah. I just think being present is the biggest thing. I remember when I was in high school, I went to a parochial school in high school as well. And my mom was always at the school and I didn't know why. Right. I
Mhm.
mean, I always saw my mom at school, but she was there advocating for us. She
Yeah,
knew the counselors, she knew the head of school, she knew our teachers. They knew my mom, you
yeah.
know. And now I'm at my son's school and I know they know me. I mean, he goes to a K through 12 school, so um but it's like a family environment. But when I say it's important just for them to know you and not when they get in trouble, just to be there if they need help answering the phone, to volunteering, or you want to help in the spirit shop, or the football team. I do game day meals. I get involved in the volleyball games. I serve during the basketball games, just so that they know, hey, I'm partnering with you not only for my son, but I also want to help in other ways in the school. So I would say, if you do nothing else, build a relationship with your parents, your child's teachers, and build a relationship with the school. You
Mhm.
know, that's what I would say. That's my advice.
And
I
I
love.
could, I'm sorry.
No, I like all of that. I like all of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just gonna say, I commend you, Courtney, for
Mhm,
you to be a teacher yourself
mhm.
or administrator, or what role are you?
Well, yeah. So basically, literacy. Yes, that's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, to be in the position that you're in and still finding the time to be involved with your son, with CJ, the way that you are, that's commendable. And that is awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And that says a lot about you as a parent, just that you're there. And so I think that's a huge thing. And
Thank
you
you.
should
Thank
you
you.
should give yourself a pat on the back for that because
Thank you. Thank you.
that's
I appreciate that, Sister Channing, because I think as parents, we need to know that our jobs are, we can be there today and gone tomorrow, but your children, they
Mm.
will remember if you were there. I remember my mom being there. I remember seeing my mom.
yeah.
She knew what we were taking, right? My dad, I remember him dropping us off, picking us up, being at whatever event we had. And for me as a parent, I have this conversation, and I understand jobs are jobs, but I can't put someone else's kids above my own kid, right?
Mhm.
Today was my son's first day of school, and I had to let them know I can't be here taking care of your kids. I have to be at my son's school. I want to drop him off. I want to go to the Cheers and Tears event to meet with the other moms. I wanted to enjoy all those things because it's my experience too, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to look back, years later and say, man, I should have been there.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah, I should have went to that event. I should have been at my son's game. I shouldn't have put my son on the bus. I take my son to school every morning so I can
Mhm.
pray with him. I can talk with him, right? I know it's time for him to learn to drive. I don't want him to learn how to drive. I enjoy driving him to school. I don't mind staying late for the football practices and taking him and having that conversation on the way home and having that discussion. And I would say for these moms that are and dads that are super busy, you're really busy at the church, you're really busy in your job, you're really busy in your sorority, your fraternity. Don't miss those moments with your kids because, like Ruben said, those 10 summers, they go by super quick,
Mhm.
And so you have to really cherish those morning talks. I was just talking to my brother and sister. We were laughing. We remember vividly my dad taking us to school, sipping his coffee, listening to NPR and asking us questions about just life, but we
Mhm.
remember it,
Mm,
you
Mhm.
know, we remember it. And you just don't get that time back.
mm.
So,
That's good. That's
And
good.
it seems like it's carried on to
absolutely.
you guys, with your own children. So that's a good thing too.
And I think for you all to have such young children, I used to hear people have, oh, my child, and they would say, how when people are like, I remember when you were young, but it's like now I remember when CJ was that little and y'all have, oh man, you have just a great opportunity, to really experience all those beautiful things. And I love that you both are already being intentional, about enjoying those summers and looking at the little things. And you notice that now,
Yeah.
right? Versus in the sixth grade, you're already doing it. And I think that's like we've been saying, we got to give ourselves grace. We have to notice the little things and we have to just enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. Just enjoying, the journey. So
Well, I'm definitely picking up some stuff that you putting
I
down.
was about to say that.
Yeah, I'm
I,
learning
I'm
some stuff,
yeah.
taking my notes right here, right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're freeing some parents out here right now with this podcast right here. So
Yeah.
yeah, and you guys know it's not easy. Like that balance between like I was gonna say, our spiritual life and sports.
mm,
That's a balance. Like extracurricular. How do you all feel about a balance with that? With your kids, maybe they want to be in theater, or maybe they want to be, an athlete, or they're in dance. How do you feel about if that they don't have those Wednesday night Bible studies, or maybe they miss a Sunday or two. How do we still incorporate that balance?
yeah,
That's a good question.
well, for me, um, so we are we are our children's, our households, first teachers, first ministers, like
Hmm.
like we should be holding that, like we're the ones taking those life moments, praying with them, and it's not just a Sunday thing. Um, I see you with the shirt on, Chanda. It goes beyond Sunday. It goes beyond Sunday.
Mhm.
But yeah, we have to champion that, and yeah, like times are changing, and I know I'm one of those ones where like, man, people need to show up on Sunday. Why is everything going on Sunday? But I will still admit that um, I'm not there yet. I don't know how it's gonna go, you but at the same time, if we are really as parents holding that torch. If we're really as parents like being the ones still bringing Bible into it, still training up a child like the Bible says, if we're the ones still helping them encounter God, helping them have a relationship with God, the church is never going to beat out a parent's engagement. Like we can't. We can only get a few hours anyway. And churches has its place. There are plenty of people at church that pour into kids and say exactly what mom and dad were saying anyway, but because they said it, because my youth leader said it, or because this one activity we did it, or I went to this Christian summer camp and engaged me, that has its place, yet at the same time, it's our job first.
Mhm.
So if children are getting involved and sports is picking up and it's taking time, and um, I would say, what are we doing to counterbalance it? You
Mhm.
know,
Great
um,
question.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
looking for those opportunities to, like you said, Courtney, like in the car, like,
Mhm.
praying and, talking about God, having conversations, and even just different things that come up, like what are their morals? Like how do they deal with it? Like, and then use that as a way to start talking about faith and talking about God, something that happened on the field or whatever. Like
Mhm.
how did you handle it? So like when you can't make it to church, it shouldn't replace church. Let's say that. It shouldn't replace church because I feel like there does come a point where you can't be so busy where you just never are coming to church. I I I feel like growing up, the reason why I grew so much in my faith is my involvement in church and in the children's ministry, the youth ministry, and different things that we had going on. So you can't take that out of the equation, but at the same time, you know, it is a reality that kids have other things going on. So you have to find that time and you have to find those ways to incorporate it. And like you said, through prayer, through conversations, scriptures, just different ways like that, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that it's important. I love that Brother Ruben was speaking about, we want to be at church, but there times are changing. And so I think our generation was at church so much that there also wasn't a balance there. And so
Mm.
now it's kind of like we have to learn a balance with our kids to say, hey, we need to go sometimes. I think there are so many opportunities, like you said, in the car. If they are, how they handle a game, how they treat a teammate, how they, honor God before a game. Those type of things I think that we could definitely do with our kids. As they get older, there's Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is a great organization for
Mhm.
athletes. And, at school, they pray, they go through scripture, they talk about, how to play God's way, you
Mm.
know, and just maybe encouraging our children to champion an initiative and you know lead that, lead FCA, and bring that to your school, and because that could be your Bible study in the morning. Hey, you meet Tuesdays, or you meet a Thursday evening, and you meet with your friends, and you're actually developing that culture around you all the time. And so I just think I really love that we're um, encouraging parents to, yes, go to church, but it's also okay. If your child has a game on Sunday and you're teaching them to play God's way and you're teaching them the importance of scripture and praying, and like Ruben said, you're the first teacher at home,
Mm.
right? It's more than just church. And that's what Beyond Sunday is all about, right? Extending beyond, right? Yeah, extending beyond. And so, as our time, I think the last thing that I would love to discuss is just, how do we make sure that we're having conversations? I know we talked about it in the car, but how do we make sure that our kids are having a healthy school year emotionally?
Mhm.
We've talked about God. We've talked about being intentional with their academics, but how do we make sure that they're okay emotionally? And how do they handle their school year? How are we helping them balance their emotions this year?
Ooh.
Yeah, Chandler, you got the smallest one, and you got like Chandler's got 30 kids now.
Oh.
I'm just playing. She's got three. I'm sorry.
You say 30? Girl, don't let them you like that.
Three
She
babies.
got she's got a lot of kids.
I don't have 30. I just three.
But you
No,
got
but
the
yeah,
brand new one,
Mm,
and then and now you got the oldest going to kindergarten, and then pre-K just started, right?
that's
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so they've got all kinds of emotions, and
yes.
you
And to be honest, guys, to be totally transparent and honest, it's a daily, you know how the Bible says, renew your mind daily?
Mhm.
Gotta renew my mind daily. And I gotta check myself daily because I'm hard on myself. I'm sure you guys understand this as parents. We can be really hard on ourselves. Like, am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Like, am I being a good example for my babies? And I always like when they get to the age that, you said, Courtney, like CJ's at, like I want them to be able to say, like, I had good parents, I had a good mom, I had a good dad. But going back, I would just say just checking myself and just praying. Like I gotta wake up and pray. I gotta get my mind right. Cause
mm,
then like if my mind's not right, I can get short. I can get frustrated easily. But you have to realize like they're just they're figuring out the world. They're still learning the world. So you gotta give them grace and realize that they're relying on me, and they're relying on Kenny to teach them the world, to teach them how to regulate their emotions, to how not to overreact or if you do overreact, how do you how do you come back from it? So I'm learning as I go. Like if I
mhm.
could just be 100% honest, like I'm learning as I go and each day is a new day and I just try to think, what could I do differently from the day before to be better today? And so a lot of it is just like reflecting and checking in with myself and getting my mind right and then helping them to get their minds right.
Yeah. You said that they're learning, but we're learning as parents. Like
Mhm.
every year is a new journey. Like every school year, age year, sport,
Yeah.
emotional hurdle that our children may be walking through or going through, friendships, all of those things, dating, all these things are things that are difficult, right? And as parents, we're learning too, and so we have to give ourselves grace, right? Because my thing, and I know what you mean by saying, man, I'm hard on myself and will my kid understand? But what I've learned is that I have to make peace with every decision that I make
Mhm.
is with great intention and I'm doing it in the best interest and with a good heart, right?
Mhm.
For my child. Will I
Yeah.
get it all right? No. But I'm doing it with the best intention in that moment,
Yeah.
right? And I might have to go back and redo some things, but I know that the decisions that I'm making, I feel are the best at the time for where we need to go. And I think that's important as parents to understand, give yourself grace. You
Yeah.
haven't been there before, right? These are things that you're learning and you're gonna have to relearn and you're gonna get it right, you're gonna get it wrong, you're gonna cry, it's gonna be joys, there's gonna be times where you just flat out fail. There's gonna be times, I mean, you know how many times I call my parents
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
day? Like a day, literally. Like, oh,
Right.
geez, I don't know, or someone that's a mentor to you that you really trust, right?
Hmm.
It's okay to reach out to resources because that knowledge and that wisdom of someone who's raised someone already, it's priceless,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
yourself grace.
Yeah.
We have to give ourselves grace because you're doing I know you're doing what's best for your kids. I know you are. And so don't be I know you're going to be hard, but you're doing what you know is best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think also what I'm hearing y'all both say is that if you can do anything, you know, also, you know, give yourself grace. Yes. If you can do anything, you know, renew your. Chandra said it. You know, renewing your mind. You know, like you're gonna need to keep getting information from a mentor, information from um, um, a family member. Um, Information from the word, growing and renewing your own mind, your spirit, that stuff is what's going to also give us something in the moments, to be able to give them,
absolutely.
as we're pouring into as we're getting poured into, and as we're, feeding ourselves um, on the greatest book, feeding ourselves with truth,
Mm.
from the Bible is going to keep on helping us,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
just do well, so if it's a kind of morning routine that you have that, starts your day off right, or, even if it's just a moment that you take, or some music that you listen to that kind of, set you, sometimes I have to reset because I've already started off
Mhm.
wrong, and I'm like,
Mm.
guys, like, boys, okay, sorry, let's start over,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
and then we just pray, you know. And so, but I mean, there's just like, just giving yourself, some scripture that does talk to um, the moment. I mean, for the kids' sake, there's a lot of stuff. Like, I was just looking at one about just, how I can possibly do better, having the right conversations, or just do better listening. But believe it or not, the Bible has verses that even help with stuff like that, and I'm like, there's so much wisdom in it. There's so much wisdom in, a lot of the Bible. So if we can keep getting poured into, we will have something to be able to give, on a
Yes.
daily basis. But it is a daily struggle, man. It is. Oh, but I did want to say this one, like, um, slowing down and listening,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so that we can actually like pay attention, to what our child is doing. Like, sometimes you got to see their face and catch that they look like they're downcast for real, and like,
Mhm.
just know, like,
Know your
when there's
child.
something wrong, like, hey, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
And one of my sons, he just doesn't like to tell. So
Mhm.
because he doesn't sometimes doesn't have the words for it, or doesn't like to talk about it, I just sat with him, give him a hug, you know, like, okay, you don't want to talk, you don't want to tell me what's wrong, but you know, just give me a hug then. And you hung him long enough for him to come out of it, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think that, but oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's that one scripture that I did find about that, in Proverbs. It says, the purposes of a person's heart and deep are deep waters, but one who has insight draws it out. So
Mhm.
just saying, if we
Mm.
take the time to kind of like
Yeah.
just, you know, give it a moment, or or just choose to, just sit in it as something,
Absolutely.
we can
Yeah.
start to kind of hear more from them. But and then even like the just having conversation, I was mentioning earlier, like, man, creating space for conversation. The Bible says in James, everyone should be quick to listen, and y'all heard this one before, slow to speak and slow
Mhm.
to anger, right?
Mhm.
So, man, like, that's just one that all of us can use, but a lot of times we get whipped up, we got things to do, we got to be on time.
Mhm.
And so,
Back.
man, listening is like a hard one when you got a schedule to keep. But if we can be quick to listen and slow to speak, slow to anger, man, we might actually hear some things, have some good conversation. And
Mhm.
so, yeah,
And
those are things that I think we should do is just, man, keep looking for those parts in the Bible, keep pouring into ourselves so we can have something to give.
mm,
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to add to that, Ruben, you said a lot of good things. Um,
The Bible said a lot of good things. I ain't said nothing.
yeah, yeah, I needed to hear those things though. One thing I want to add to that is that our kids are listening to us even when we think they're not.
Yeah. Ooh. Hmm.
Even when we think they're not, because a lot of the times I'm like, I'm just talking to them. We're just, I need you to do this, or, you're not supposed to do this because of this, just teaching them because they're at the age where they're like sponges, and just, I'm teaching them. And, they'll come out of nowhere sometimes and they'll just be like, well, mommy, remember when you said I'm not supposed to do this, or I need to do this, or you just don't realize like the seeds that you plant in your kids, it will come out. So you have to be mindful of the seeds that you're planting. That doesn't mean that you can't have a bad day, because I'll be the first to say I've had my bad days and I will have bad days in the future. But I try to be, like you said, Courtney, intentional, you know, in the things that I say and the things that I do. And if I do make a mistake, I try not to be too prideful and not go back and say, hey, mommy made a mistake. I'm sorry. Now sometimes you can't apologize for everything because it is what it is. But, if
Hmm.
you make a mistake, don't be too prideful where you can't go back and say, hey, I'm sorry, or I was having a moment. I was having a bad day. Sometimes mommies have bad days too. Like you got to talk to them in their kid language, but you know what I
Listen,
mean?
they really
They
be
gonna
listening.
get older and they keep receipts.
They be
You
listening.
know, they're not always gonna be in kindergarten. They're gonna be 16 and they're gonna say, uh, and they're gonna say, and this new generation of kids, they're very different. They're not us.
Yeah.
They're
Mm-mm.
not. I mean,
Mm-mm.
and you can pretend that they are, but I'm around high schoolers every day.
Yeah.
Seniors, juniors, baby, they are different and they will keep receipt. They will tell you. And the thing
Mhm.
that I'm learning, and I would say as we wrap this up, is that as stressful as it is for us as adults, right? We're sitting here in our 30s and 40s, and we are talking about how we're having a bad day. We're struggling. We're trying to figure this out. We're going back to the word. Well, these are babies that are sometimes struggling with their emotions. You have teenagers that one day, not even one day, this 10 minutes, they're okay. The next 10 minutes, they don't know what they like. The next 10 minutes, it's a whole nother, you like, who are you? It's very, and so we have to understand that their social, emotional, even um, their social meter of being around people and situations and school, right? And we're talking about balance, right? So they have all of these things they have to balance teacher dynamics. They have to do academics. They might be frustrated by not understanding something. Friendships are hard for them at this age. Some of them are starting to date. They like a girl, but the girl doesn't like them back, or they like a boy, the boy doesn't like them back. They're struggling with, maybe um, they have to battle social media with what says is attractive, or their friends are saying this and that. There's so many different factors that they're having to combat in, I mean, you even think about just an hour of a day, you know and we are grown people and we're able to regulate it, but they're not. And so the one thing I'm learning as a mom is it's really okay if we don't get that right. Right? It's really okay if we don't get this one moment right. It's okay. Okay, we blew up. We're going to have some blow ups. We're going to have some back and forth. We're going to have these moments where things aren't okay. It's okay. Right? He didn't get to bed by 9:30. It's okay. you know, he didn't get to go to church today. We didn't get to do this. We didn't get to do the Bible lesson. We have to learn how to, I feel like, be healthy emotionally. And I think one thing we really need to work on with our kids is, like Ruben said, listening, hearing them, talking with them, whether it's just being there, whether it's putting them in a space where they can talk with someone that they feel comfortable, even if it's about us, right?
Mm.
Um, but it's important, I think, that we understand that they're dealing with a lot
Mm-hmm.
on a day-to-day basis. And so if we're struggling to handle the emotions of having a good day and balancing everything in our routine and making sure that they're growing, they're struggling with meeting the expectations, you know, and learning that as they grow, they're going to fall, we're going to fall. And we just have to make sure that we are, as we're encouraging them to keep going, that we understand that, man, this is a hard one for them, and we have to learn to work on giving grace. And I think that that's something that, as a parent, it's hard to do in those younger years because you feel like it's so important that I form them to understand this and that. But I think as they get older, you learn, man, I got to let that one go.
Mm.
I got to let that one go so that I can get to this one, right? I'm gonna lose this battle, but I can win the war over here because
Mm.
you're gonna lose some battles, you know. And so just I think just pouring into them socially, listening to their emotional things, and like I said, whether it's counseling, whether it's a mentor that they want to listen to, but just understanding that they themselves are dealing with a lot emotionally, I think is important that
Mm.
we got to remember for our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So keep it about the kids.
Yeah, yeah. But I think we might need to do like a piggyback off of this another time. We'll see, or
There's a
um,
lot. There's
yeah,
a lot.
there's so much we could talk to about like back to school with our kids, parenting or academics or incorporating, their spiritual walk, and how do
Mental
we
health.
balance all that? Yeah,
Mental.
there's just so much to talk about. But it's gonna have to be another day because
Yeah.
our time.
I need your beauty rest. You need the beauty rest.
Yes, right. And talk about those bedtimes. And what time is it? Yeah, it's late.
It's late.
Yeah. So, but I just appreciate you guys coming on today and talking about back to school. And we really hope that you learned something today through our journeys as parents, and how we're balancing our back to school with our kids in situations. We really hope that you were able to take something and apply it to your families and your homes through this Beyond Sunday Family Matters podcast. We hope that you will join us coming up next month. I think we're working on a grandparents podcast. We're going to hear from some grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
and pouring into you as well. And so we hope that you will join us the next time on the Family Matters podcast. And we're going to say goodnight.
Great job, y'all.
See ya. Thank you.